Did Tyrion time travel in the Sorrows in A Dance with Dragons? Something really weird happened on board the Shy Maid that is never really explained, but I think we can have a good go, so let's take a look. Hi everyone, this is Robert. Welcome to In Deep Geek. On this channel we dive deep into the world of A Song of Ice and Fire, as well as The Lord of the Rings and The Witcher. Welcome. Time travel. It all sounds a bit far-fetched, but this is a serious fan theory based on a genuine mystery in the books, and I think hints at some even more important points in the story, so let's set the scene. Tyrion is travelling on board the Shy Maid south on the River Royne in A Dance with Dragons with a curious cast of characters. We know that Griff is Jon Connington, young Griff, the boy claiming to be Aegon VI, and so on, but Tyrion is not told any of that by Illyrio and is left to figure it out for himself. Tyrion being Tyrion, he does, though he has not yet told them that he knows. They are heading downstream to Volantis, where they hope to meet up with Daenerys. Not that she's actually going there, but they don't know that. And more than halfway down the river, they reach the Sorrows, the ruins of the Roynish city of Troy-Rain, now home to lots of stone men, those with advanced cases of grayscale. The fog that hangs heavy around that section of the river, the ruins, the stone men, and the tragic history of the place, which we'll get into in just one moment, lend a spooky, ethereal quality to what transpires. It's clear that no one really relishes going through this part of the river, but as long as you can avoid attracting the attention of the stone men, you should be fine. Boats like the Shy Maid pass through every day. And their journey through the city goes smoothly to start with. The current of the river carries them gently through, past a great stone hand sticking out of the water, a tilted marble stairway, and other ruins, while they talk in hushed tones about their surroundings. They meet another boat, the Kingfisher, then pass under the famous Bridge of Dream, where several stone men silently watch them past, if they can even see them. The fog is so thick it's hard to make out anything more than a few yards away. On the other side of the Bridge of Dream, though, the conversation takes a turn. Tyrion reveals who he is, and that he's figured out who Griff and young Griff are. It all gets a bit heated, and then this happens. On the larboard side of the boat, a huge stone hand was visible just below the water. 2 fingers broke the surface. How many of those are there? Tyrion wondered. A trickle of moisture ran down his spine and made him shudder. The Sorrows drifted by them. Peering through the mists, he glimpsed a broken spire, a headless hero, an ancient tree torn from the ground and upended, its huge roots twisting through the roof and windows of a broken dome. Why does all this seem so familiar? Straight on, a tilted stairway of pale marble rose up out of the dark water in a graceful spiral, ending abruptly 10 feet above their heads. No, thought Tyrion, that's not possible. Ahead, Lemore's voice was shivery. A light. All of them looked. All of them saw it. Kingfisher, said Griff. Her or some other like her. But he drew his sword again. No one said a word. The Shy Maid moved with the current. Every eye was on the distant light. As they grew closer, it turned into 2 lights, then 3. The Bridge of Dream, said Tyrion. Inconceivable, said Haldan Halfmaester. We've left the bridge behind. Rivers only run one way. Mother Royne runs how she will, murmured Yandri. 7 save us, said Lemore. Up ahead, the stone men on the span began to wail. A few were pointing down at them. Haldan, get the prince below, commanded Griff. It was too late. The current had them in its teeth. They drifted inexorably towards the bridge. What happens then is that this time 3 stone men jump onto their boat. They manage to drive 2 of them in the water, while a third makes a grab for young Griff. Tyrion defends him, but ends up plunging into the waters himself. He survives, but only just, coming to only when they are many miles further south. There are longer-term implications of this encounter, like Jon Connington contracting grayscale, but here we're more interested in that strange moment where they seem to go back to a point in the river they'd already passed. Did the whole boat time travel back to an earlier point in time? Did the stone men and their mysterious leader, the Shrouded Lord, transport them back to an earlier part of the river, so this time when they passed beneath the Bridge of Dream, they could attack them? That's what many fans believe. So I suppose we should start by acknowledging that although time travel may seem far-fetched at first glance, time travel of sorts does definitely happen in the universe of A Song of Ice and Fire, most notably through Bran speaking through the Weirwood network and his father hearing, for example, or with the Hodor incident. Or, many believe, Dany and Rhaegar sharing a visionary moment when she was in the House of the Undying. Of course, all of those instances are closed time loops of sorts, and very different to what people think might have happened here, with the whole boatload of people being taken back in time and having to do it all again. But still, I will want to come back to this idea before the end, so just bookmark it for now while we look at other explanations. And let's start with the most straightforward, if rather dull, answer, that the current took their boat in a big circle and they didn't realise. The fog made navigation hard, even seeing which direction they were going in. They'd all been distracted by their argument, and Tyrion hadn't been there before, so couldn't be expected to understand what the currents might do. That certainly seems to be the conclusion of Yandri, the pilot, who knows the river better than any of them. He muttered, "Mother Royne runs as she will." The river had taken them back around. That doesn't, however, discount him thinking there's a more mystical reason, too. To the Roynish, Mother Royne is their god, after all, but Yandri is certainly less shocked than everyone else. That said, we should also note the reactions of the other people on the Shy Maid. Tyrion can scarcely believe it. Haldon says it is inconceivable. Lemore's voice is shivery. Griff draws his sword. These are all clever, switched-on people, and they are all convinced something very, very strange had just happened. So, although I often think that the mundane answer is usually the right one, here all the context clues are that we should actually be looking for something more magical. Particularly because George R. R. Martin has set this up as a very magical place. The Sorrows used to be Troy-Rain, the richest and most beautiful of the cities of the Rhoynar. It is said it had streets of water and palaces of gold, a marvel among cities. But then the Roynish fought the Valyrian freeholds and lost. Prince Garin, their leader, was hung in a golden cage in Troy-Rain, so he could witness the city's destruction. But he called down a curse on the Valyrians, begging Mother Royne to destroy them. That night, the waters of the river rose, and indeed killed the Dragon Lords, though the city was still destroyed. It became a ruin, and it is said that the drowned Valyrian's breath now rises as the ever-present fog. Those who survived succumbed to grayscale, turning to stone. Garin himself apparently lived on in death as the Shrouded Lord, ruling that city now known as the Sorrows and its stone men inhabitants. The Sorrows became abandoned, but for the boatmen who still needed to pass through, and the stone men whose number were added to by still more sufferers of grayscale, abandoned there by their communities. Legends and magic permeate the Sorrows. We should therefore expect, the only time our story passes through there, that mysterious things will happen. In fact, George R. R. Martin has even admitted that he had originally wanted this section of the book to be even more magical. He wrote a chapter seemingly about Tyrion meeting the Shrouded Lord before deciding against including it. He said this once, "Someday I will die, and I hope you're right and it's 30 years from now. When that happens, maybe my heirs will decide to publish a book of fragments and deleted chapters, and you'll all get to read about Tyrion's meeting with the Shrouded Lord. It's a swell, spooky, evocative chapter, but it took me down a road I decided not to travel." Anyway, perhaps we're asking the wrong question here. What happened was clearly something magical. The more important question is why. Because that didn't happen to most boats that passed through the Sorrows, and it only happened to the Shy Maid when they were almost through the city. I think the clue is in what was happening on board the Shy Maid that might have prompted their magical shift back to an earlier point in the river. This incident happens immediately after Tyrion finally vocalises his conclusion that young Griff is a disguise. His hair dyed, his eyes purple. He is Rhaegar's son. That's the moment Tyrion notices that huge stone hand for a second time. Put simply, the boat was happily making its way through the Sorrows, the stone men largely ignoring them, when we get the big reveal that there is a Valyrian on board. Why is that important? Because the foundational magic in this place is anti-Valyrian. The stone men wail. Then the ship is brought back, and this time as they pass under the bridge, the stone men attack. To me, the exact mechanism through which this happened isn't the most striking thing. Teleportation, moved by eddies in the water, even time travel. This is a magical world, and George R. R. Martin likes to keep the mechanics of his magic secret. He thinks it makes it all spookier and scarier, and I tend to agree. The important thing here is that the Stone Men, and perhaps even the Shrouded Lord, if he is more than myth, want young Griff dead. It is him they try to get to when they land on the boat. It is only thanks to Tyrion that he survives at all. But if you want an even deeper cut here, I think George R. R. Martin is doing something very subtle and very clever, not just with the action in this chapter, but with the language he uses and what it implies for the wider story. Everyone believes that the river flows in only one direction. They can't go back, but they're wrong. That language is explicitly picked up a few chapters later when Bran is talking to Bloodraven. He has access to the Weirwood network and seen his father at Winterfell in the past, prompting this discussion. Bloodraven starts. For men, time is a river. We are trapped in its flow, hurtling from past to present, always in the same direction. The lives of trees are different. They root and grow and die in one place, and that river does not move them. The oak is the acorn is the oak, and the weirwood, 1,000 human years are a moment to a weirwood, and through such gates you and I may gaze into the past. Bloodraven goes on to explain that, despite this, you cannot change the past, even through the Weirwood network, except that we know that Bran will. He already has in small ways, like making his father ask who's there when he cries out through the Weirwood tree, and he will obviously do it more dramatically later through Hodor. Even the language here echoes, not just the river only flowing in one direction, but who tells Bran about the flow of time? Brynden Rivers. What is the name of the boat that the Shy Maid passes? The Kingfisher. The Fisher King is a legendary character who cannot walk or father children, and yet he looks over the whole realm, like Bran. From a literary perspective, if not necessarily from a literal perspective, the Shy Maid was travelling with the flow of the river, time, and unable to go back, and yet they do. We get to see the same events, but echoes with a slightly different story. They pass by that stone hand and under the Bridge of Dream, but this time things are slightly different. And when you think of it, this idea of history echoing permeates the whole story, and so much of how we analyse it. We had the first long night, and we're waiting for the second. We had Azor Ahai, now we're looking for Azor Ahai reborn. Dany and her 3 dragons echoes Aegon and his 3 dragons. Tyrion reminds us of Lan the Clever, the Rat Cook with Frey Pie, and so on and so on. This is one of the key distinctives of this world, and here George R. R. Martin is showing it to us in a very physical way, with our protagonists literally taken out of the flow of the river and placed back to where they were earlier in its flow. Things can and do happen again, but differently. So, did Tyrion and the Shy Maid time travel? In practice, we'll never know for sure, but we can be pretty confident that it was some kind of magical transportation through the waters, powered by Garen's curse and Mother Royne, when the Stone Men realised that one of the accursed Valyrians was daring to enter their waters after all this time. Thematically, though, yes, they definitely did. They were plucked from the flow of the river of time and forced to relive it in slightly different circumstances, with slightly different outcomes. The story of A Song of Ice and Fire will often echo the past, sometimes very strikingly, but it will never truly repeat it. If you'd like more videos like this, diving deep into the world of A Song of Ice and Fire, there's a link to my playlist on the left of your screen now. Or to support this channel, thank you. There's a link to my Patreon page on the right of your screen. That's all for this time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again soon.